Hello and welcome back to the Weightlifting House YouTube channel. On today's episode, we're actually going to take a look at the Olympic Games. Who was the best snatcher? Which were the 5 top weightlifters in the world? Who had the best Sinclairs? Who made the most lifts? We're going to go behind the scenes, we're going to look through the data, and we're going to take a better look at this Olympic Games in Paris. So the website I'm using to do this is a website called ironwise.app. I've never seen this website before, and then somebody shared a link with me, and it's amazing. So if you've made this and you're out there watching, thank you. This is a really great resource. If you haven't, I recommend you check it out. They've got really great information on athletes, competitions, so you can actually select an athlete. I was looking through Rizki earlier. It tells you all about how good he is at competition, his technique versus this, his snatch percentage make. It's really awesome. So that's what I'm using here. It's ironwise.app. I'll put a link to that down below. So the first thing that they mention here at this Paris 2024 Weightlifting Olympic Games, best athlete on the men's side. No surprise. Well, maybe it is a surprise to some. I don't know. It's Karlos. On the women's side, again, it wasn't a huge surprise to me because she was one of the only Chinese women who really performed to the best. Luo Shifang. So Karlos, his Sinclair 489.97, 89 kilo category, snatch 180, clean jerk 224 world record, totaled a huge 8 kilo world record. I actually wrote down after the Olympics, I went through some of the top Sinclairs and I made a list because I was actually interested to see how everybody ranked. Now, Karlos was way ahead of everybody. There was an 11-point Sinclair gap between him and second place. Second place was Rizki 73 kilo Olympic champion. It's worth mentioning though, if you take Rizki's best performance, that 355 that he did, the 164 snatch and the 201 clean and jerk that he did in Thailand, he would actually be above Karlos there. Rizki's best Sinclair is above Karlos's best Sinclair, which is crazy to me. Maybe I'll just say it. Rizki has the best Sinclair of the entire quad. Rizki is currently the best weightlifter in the world, which is mad, on his best day. Whereas Karlos still hasn't shown us his full powers yet. He didn't even take a 6th attempt at the Olympics and he was still number 1. So Karlos, Rizki. The next person, I think this is really interesting because they didn't even win. It's Jason Lopez. I mean, it must suck to be Jason Lopez because you're a world record holder in the snatch. You are out Sinclairing the best athletes from the 61s, the 102s, the supers, but because you've got Karlos in your category, you're a silver medalist. After him, it's Li Fabin. Makes sense, 2-time Olympic champion, 61 kilo world record holder. Behind him at number 5 in the world, Lasha Talakadze, 470.98. So on the women's side, we already mentioned Luo Shifang, 329, she had the best. It just goes to show, again, how strong that category is because, again, you've got to feel bad. The second best Sinclair in the world on the women's side at this Olympic Games, Maude Charron from Canada. She took the silver medal. So if Maude had hit that level of Sinclair in any other category, 49, 71, 81 plus 81, she would have been a 2-time Olympic champion. But she's going up against an absolute savage in Luo Shifang right now. You know, what did she do? 108, 130, I can't even remember what Luo Shifang hit in the end. But then again, I mean, Luo Shifang didn't even have her best day. I've actually done a list of all of the best Sinclairs from this quad, and I am counting them down in the Weightlifting House weekly email that goes out every Friday. I do like a summary of all the news and that sort of thing that goes out. So if you're interested, sign up for that. I'll put a link down below for that as well, so you can sign up if you want to get the full countdown. But after Maude, at number 3, it's Hu Jihui, 49 kilo legend, 2-time Olympic champion. And she lifted, I mean, this sounds terrible to say. She lifted like awfully for her. I mean, her worst snatch day for a long time. Pretty good clean and jerk, actually. She was pushed by Mihaela Kambe. And number 4 was Kuo Seung Chun. So again, a third athlete in the 59s to round out the top 4. 3 59s in the top 4. Then it's Olivia Reeves at 71 at number 5, which is crazy to have a US athlete there. And then Mihaela Kambe just slightly behind that at number 6. So those are the top 5 and then 6th Sinclairs on the men's and women's sides from this Olympic Games. I thought that stuff was kind of interesting. I don't know about you. Heaviest snatch, I mean, this is just no surprise because really we're just looking at the supers. It's Gore, which I love. I love the fact that Gore beat Lasha there. And then Li Wenwen, so 216 versus 136. Li Wenwen, you know, she's basically 10 kilos down on her best. Clean and jerk, 255 from Lasha, and then Li Wenwen again, 173. Nothing particularly exciting there. Interesting here, median age and average age, which I've got to rack my brains to remember what that means. Median, middle number. Average, divided by the number of people. They basically work out very similarly anyway. I guess the reason is you can go way older than you can younger, because you can't compete at the Olympic Games if you're like 12 years old, but you can compete if you're 70. You're just probably not going to qualify. So that's why I guess we have both median and average here. Median ages 26.59 on the men's side, 25.99. So if you're like me and I'm 31 now, it's not happening. I mean, it didn't take me to see this to realize that it wasn't happening, but it's really not happening, guys. Average age, if you're interested, 26.74 for the men, 25.95 for the women. Oldest athletes, Camille Kuchera. We talk about him whenever we do the commentary. He's absolutely amazing. I wonder if I can find our stats page for this. Okay, I've got the stats. The stats I get from Ewan, who runs Open Weightlifting, another great resource I'd highly recommend you checking out if you just want to see general weightlifting stats. We work with him to get our stats book for the commentary. So going through Camille's, he's been competing. His first international was 2002. And now he's competing in 2024. Some of you watching could well not have been alive in 2002. And this man was out there as a super. He was a super, 116 kilos. Not a great super, 125 snatch, but, he's still out there internationally, which is crazy. But he had never competed in the Olympics, even though he's been going for so long. So he actually made it to this Olympic Games as the oldest athlete there. It's an amazing story, really, when you think about it. He did it at 39.39 years of age. I like how they have the decimals for the ages. And then on the women's side, the oldest athlete, actually way younger, 33 years of age, Marie Faguet from France, home nation athlete, lifted very well in the 71s. Youngest, Wirafon, which is exciting that we have an athlete of that much talent who's not even 19 years of age yet. And then on the women's side, we had Jamali, who is even slightly younger, 18.64. And then they show this, which I thought was interesting. It's a breakdown of country representation at the Olympic Games. You can see there that China has the biggest square, biggest square, but they have it on both teams, which nobody else does. So over here, when it's athletes per nation, China is number one. They were the only country to have 6 athletes competing at the Olympic Games. They maxed it out, 3 men, 3 women. So I know a lot of people want to increase the number of athletes per country who go. Most countries, all but one, can't actually even fill it up right now on both the men's and the women's side. Obviously, if you look at like the USA, they had plenty of women who could have done it, but they just didn't have as many men. So it does change things slightly. But you can see here that the men maxed it out from Georgia, China, Korea, Armenia, and Bulgaria. On the women's side, it was maxed out by Venezuela, USA, Egypt, China, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, and Taipei. So very different countries, really. You've still got kind of a Soviet stronghold on the men's side, outside of China and Korea, Armenia, Bulgaria, Georgia. And then on the women's side, you're getting way more kind of Pan-American countries coming in. USA, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Ecuador. So it's an interesting split. And then, of course, the athletes per nation. China, as I mentioned, number one. And then the ones following with 5 athletes, Venezuela, USA, Egypt, and Korea. And I think if you were to pick some of the biggest, strongest countries in the world, you wouldn't necessarily pick those athletes or those countries. So they'd be in the conversation, but you might not necessarily count them as the 5 biggest. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, next let's look at so score analysis. We can skim through this kind of quickly. Average Sinclairs, 422 on the men's side, 283 on the women's side. Just to put it into perspective, the top Sinclairs that we've seen over this quad, I think on the women's side, are around 335-ish, something like that. And on the men's side, low 490s. So the average obviously considerably below that. The attempts, though, I thought this is interesting. This is something we should actually look at. 64% successful snatch attempts from men, 64% from women. 49% of clean and jerks were made on the men's side and 53% on the women's side. Both very low, but below 50%. I mean, that is... I guess what it is that when you're at the Olympic Games, you're more likely to take some bold second and third attempts because you're really just trying to medal at this point. So the attempt selection might be a little bit more risky at the Olympic Games than it is at most qualifying competitions, except for the last chance qualifier, which is probably even crazier. They probably only make about 40% of their clean and jerks because everyone's going for trying to make the games. But even at the Olympics, there's some kind of, crazy third attempt selection. And you can actually see it. So if we look at the men's snatches, you've got 70% 78% opener, 70% second attempt. I thought was very high. And then 42% third attempt. Not that bad. I mean, really not that bad. Clean and jerk though, for the men. I mean, this is disgusting. 64% openers made. That's so low. That is so low for an international competition. 58% second attempts. It says snatch there. So it should say clean and jerk. Same with this one here. It says snatch, but 19% clean and jerks were made for third attempts. And that's not even 1 in 5. I mean, almost is, but it's not. That is so low. But again, you know, it's athletes taking big third attempts to try and get a bronze medal and not managing it. Then on the women's side, they're a little bit more consistent. 81% first attempt snatch opener, I thought was very good. That drops to 68%, slightly below on the men's side, and then 43 on the third attempts. 75% clean and jerk openers, much higher. I don't know why that is. It's really interesting that they are that much more consistent. I mean, more than 10% more made lifts on opening clean and jerks from the women's side than on the men's side. 55% second attempts, 26% third attempts. Interestingly, the men make more second attempts in the snatch and clean and jerk than the women, but fewer first attempts. So what, they open too heavy and then they take smaller jumps. The women open slightly lighter, make their lifts and take bigger, more dangerous jumps. I don't know. That's interesting. And then the last thing that we have here is body weight ratios, basically. What I mean by that is, you know, if you weigh 100 kilos, you clean and jerk 200. It's a 2-time ratio. You clean and jerk 2 times your body weight. So average on the men's side in the snatch. Oh gosh, we got average and median again. We'll go with average. I think that's actually more useful here. 1.788% of body weight was snatched. So if you weigh 100 kilos, you'd be snatching 178 kilos is the average of an athlete at the Olympic Games. Obviously, this doesn't quite work. This is why Sinclair is so good, because Sinclair the coefficient takes into account body weight. It basically imagines that everybody is the same weight as Lasha Talakadze, and so brings everybody's body weight up, and then it calculates how good is this person's snatch versus this person's snatch. That's how Sinclair works. It makes everybody the same body weight. But we know that as an athlete gets bigger, with every pound that they gain in body weight, they lift fewer and fewer additional kilos of weight. So that first 10 pounds of muscle mass that you gain, you might lift 10 kilos more. The next 10 pounds that you gain, you're only going to lift 7 kilos more. The next 10 pounds is going to be 4 kilos more, and so on. So you lift less and less as you gain more and more weight. So this isn't that useful. You kind of know that the best ratios are all going to be in the 49 kilo women's and the 61 kilo men's, which is what's happened. And, you know, it's interesting. Average clean and jerk ratio on the men's side, 1.98, 1.7 on the women's side. The best ratio snatch, Leaf bin, no surprises, 2.34. Don't forget, guys, that Naeem Suleimanoglu did over 2.5 times body weight. He snatched 150. Did he do 152 in Seoul 88? I think he might have done. And then he did 190 clean and jerk, which is 10 kilos over 3 times body weight, which nobody else has done. I think there's 6 athletes to have done 3 times body weight, but nobody's done 10 kilos over 3 times body weight. Just insane. What actually is, so Naeem did 190 at 60, which as a ratio is 3.16 or 3.17. Rounding up. So 3.17 is the best of all time, 2.82 from Hampton. Then on the women's side, the best snatch, I mean, it's kind of obvious, Mihaela Kambe, because she won the snatches with the 93 kilo snatch. And then on the clean and jerk, Hu Jihui, because she won the clean and jerk in the 49. So it's all a body weight thing here. Even so, kind of interesting. Anyway, that's a little look at some of the stats, some of the breakdowns of these incredible performances that we saw in Paris. As I mentioned, check out ironwires.app. It's a great website, very cool. And then also check out Open Weightlifting if you just want to get straight results and athlete performances. That's great too. And if you want to get more news on weightlifting, just head to the link down below and you can sign up for the Weightlifting House newsletter. Every Friday, we just give you a load of information, some of the best lifts from the week, a little update on what's going on in the greater weightlifting world with competitions, that sort of thing, and then oftentimes some analysis like this. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.